do a quick intro about myself. I came to this uni, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was about 3. Studied here and then went on to Smoke and Mirrors, which does commercials, which is right next door to MPC. And every time I was working there, I kept pestering MPC for an interview and I really want to work with you guys. You guys are more do characters and creatures and more the awesome stuff that I want to do. So kept pestering them, finally got some contacts and got a place there, and I've been there ever since, which is coming up to about 3 years. I think it's just gone 3 years. I can't remember. So yeah, I've been at MPC for a while. I started off at their commercials department, which was really fun because I was the only ZBrush guy there. So anything ZBrush came to me, straight to me. So it was really, really fun. I felt like even though I was a junior, they were giving me huge things to do. So it was a huge responsibility, and kept saying that in my pay review. So trying to bump up the pay. So yeah, I got to work on some awesome projects just by myself and claim some characters like I knew in film you would never be able to do, because in film it's completely different. In film you work on a character, someone else will work on the character, someone else will work on the character, and at the end of the day, I think for instance, like Guardians of the Galaxy, I helped work on Rocket and Groot, and countless of people, artists have worked on that character, about 500 plus. So it feels like you can't really say, oh, that's mine because I did it, but in the commercials department, I got to really say, yeah, that was mine. Maybe I'll show some examples later if we've got some time. But I'm just going to quickly show what MPC do. They are really, really big. I mean, I think this year we were working on 16, I'll go back. So I went from the commercials department, then I went into film department. Just because I wanted to get into more film concept, more creating the characters, more spend more time on a character, because in commercials it's really, really short periods. It's 2 weeks, 3 weeks you got to work on a character. In film it's months. So it can be quite annoying sometimes, but once it's done it really does pay off. So yeah, that's the difference. I definitely would recommend trying out both if you can. I'm pretty sure the games industry is completely different to VFX. I don't think they work on characters for very long. Could be wrong, but the guys that I know that have been in the games industry, they roughly bang out a character, they get them done, they get them approved and signed off. Whereas in VFX industry, a lot of people like to change their mind or add their input, which completely throws it all up in the air. Then I'll tell you some stories about working on Guardians of the Galaxy and...
What the hell?
Groot has been traveling recently as Rocket's personal houseplant / muscle.
Groot is one of the strangest characters Marvel has ever attempted to put on film. Breathing life into a character, it's great.
Just, give you insight and a bit about ZBrush and how awesome it is and how good and the many uses of it. You probably think, oh, I'll just create characters. You'll be surprised that it's used for a lot of stuff. So yeah, I'll quickly I'll show the MPC showreel if you've not already seen it. I think this is the latest one. And I don't know if any films have worked on it in this, but yeah, I'll let this play. I don't know if it's don't really need some. So yeah, that's basically our films. I mean, this year coming, or next year for our 2015 reel, it's going to be absolutely insane. There's too many films we worked on. So, just pause this. Right, so that was a brief selection of films that we worked on. Big ones. I mean, recently we've worked on. If I show you, so films that I've worked on since I've been in the film industry. Night at the Museum 3, I sculpted the Triceratops that you see in the film. I mean, it's not out yet, but it's pretty cool. He fights the T-Rex, I think. I have no idea. But so if you go see that, check out that. It's going to be a family fun film. And if you see a little Oscar in the corner, it's because recently, I think 3 films or 4 films that I've worked on, or 5 films in total at MPC, have been nominated for Oscars for visual effects, which is awesome. 3 of them I think I've worked on. So if you see a little Oscar in the corner, it's because, yay, got an Oscar. Well, we haven't got one, but been nominated. So first time, so it's pretty awesome. And also, if you've got any questions at all, like don't hesitate to ask, because I mean I'm here to like answer any of your questions, any of your doubts. All right, yeah.
So like when your film gets nominated for an Oscar that you've helped work on, do you get how do you get the Oscar?
Well, the VFX supervisor gets the Oscar. He goes and collects it. We get a picture of it later, or we probably Photoshop ourselves in there or something. Yeah, we get to hold it. It gets sent to us, so it'll be cool. So yeah, Maleficent. I was only on this for like 2-3 weeks, and I did the mountains that are in the posters. Most things actually that I've worked on have been in the posters, so it's pretty lucky. So I don't know if you've seen Maleficent, but there's loads of like massive mountains with huge faces carved in them, with waterfalls running out of them. Really like crazy stuff. And I just hopped on that really quick, and it was near the end of the film, so they just weren't liking, so I completely resculpted and changed them all up, and yeah, so that's why it's imposed next to Derpy Face, because yeah, so yeah, I don't know if that will win the Oscar. And then this film, which was awesome to work on, Guardians of the Galaxy, and what a ride it was. It was I've never seen so many people break on this film. It was crazy. Like, there were so many shots we had to work on. I think it got delayed because of there was so much visual effects work on it, because they had to, at one point they weren't doing spoilers if anyone's seen it. Has everyone seen it? You should have seen it. It's pretty awesome. I won't spoil it. Right? There's a city in it that loads of ships fall on and they explode, and basically that city was never in there, and we had to quickly, well, I didn't, but loads and loads and loads of people had to quickly mock up this crazy sci-fi, it's called Xander, this crazy sci-fi CG city, which was, yeah, so a lot of people have mixed feelings about this, working on this film, because a lot of people had bad times. I was fortunate, and I had a good time working on it. I did a lot of stuff that Rocket Raccoon modelled like his blasters, the wires that he puts together, the pole that he hangs on, loads of different random stuff. But I was, and then Baby Groot, which is pretty awesome. He's actually, the dance, fun fact, is actually James Gunn, the director. He did a dance when he was finally sculpted, and he was all approved and all happy. He was like, oh, I want him to dance at the end, and there's a funny, like, I don't know if it's in the Blu-rays extras or whatever, it should be because it's hilarious, but there's a funny little thing of him doing a Skype call going, I want him to dance like this, and then like that was the animation reference, was him doing the dance, and then like when he saw it next he was like, yeah, that's me, it was perfect. So yeah, that's actually little James Gunn dancing as Groot. So yeah, that was really, really awesome, and Groot was a really cool character to work on. Well, actually, I didn't really work on it a lot. I more worked on Rocket, but he was a lot of people worked on Groot though. It was a fun character to see him develop and evolve. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, it was awesome. It was a really good film, and you should definitely go see it if you haven't. So yeah, here's another few things that I've worked on that are in the poster, except from Goosebumps. Exodus Gods and Kings, I quickly hopped on that after, I think it was after Guardians of the Galaxy, and had to work on these rocks. I work on quite a few rocks, because I've been known to be good at sculpting rocks. So, so basically, they had these rocks before, and the quote was that they looked like Godzilla's shit. So we had to go in and I had to sculpt them up again with the help of someone else. And then they're featured in like the big, because it's the big money shot. It's the big trailer. It's the big. So these rocks had to look really, really good. So you can imagine the amount of rounds and notes you get about rocks. It's quite interesting what everyone has their views about what's their perfect rock and what it looks like. And yeah, so good fun. I mean, I was only on it for a short period, but it's nice to see. Goosebumps, which has no I don't know if it has a trailer out or anything or a poster. It's just got Goosebumps. But I helped sculpt a character in there. I actually helped concept a sculpt character. So I don't know if it's a spoiler. I don't know if he's been. I'll just leave it. I'll say there's a character. There's loads of characters in Goosebumps. Goosebumps is like a kids' film where it's like a kids' horror film, and there's loads and loads of horror characters. So there's like their Frankenstein, their werewolf, their Dracula, their mummy, their Yeti, loads of characters like the dummy and stuff. So I helped concept sculpt one of those characters, which was really fun. So yeah, that'll be another family fun film. Jungle Book, which is a huge project at the moment at MPC. It's kind of like it's been told it's our Avatar. So this thing is absolutely huge. We've got I've been moved, loads of modelers have been moved out of the building because we need a whole set of modelers just working on this film because it is absolutely ginormous. And actually there was at one point 2 Jungle Book films going on at the same time. Andy Serkis's one and the Disney one, which is directed by Jon Favreau. We're not doing the Andy Serkis one, and I think that has now been delayed. But yeah, so Jungle Book, it's going to be it's one human character, which is Mowgli, and the whole thing is CG. So the forest, the animals, and they're huge animals. So they're not normal size, they're big, and they've all got their own uniqueness about them, and they look a bit Disney but very realistic. Voiced by Bill Murray. So I think the guy who sculpted Bill Murray has actually put the likeness of a bit of Bill Murray in him, and Idris Elba is playing the tiger, and it looks fantastic. And I think if we pull it off, it's going to be one hell of a film, and it gives Weta a run for their money because they're the top dogs when it comes to visual effects at the moment. They just work on like a few films, but they really do. I mean, I don't know if you saw the new Apes or anything. It's just they're fucking good. So Monster Truck, and again, they have just this. There's not much about this. I don't know how much I can say about it, but I've worked on this for a long time, and I was really lucky because I actually started off concepting, and I concepted with Neville Page. I don't know if you heard of him. He's a big concept creature guy. We are alongside quite a few other concept artists. Basically, pretty much every well-known concept artist in LA, in anywhere, had a stab at making these things for this movie. They are absolutely insane, and the brief for it was ridiculously hard. So it was real. It was good fun because I was a part of it and I was helping doing it. And I was like, oh, what's Neville Page done? Oh, I don't know, see if it's better than mine, which it was. But so it was really fun. The trailer should be coming out soon for this. It's like Paramount's new film about let's make the play on word monster truck into a movie. So yeah, it's a monster inside a truck. It's kind of like Transformers meets E.T. meets some other weird film with trucks in that film. But yeah, it's going to be it'll be one to look out for. But I was on that for a long time. So I was on this film for, I think I started concepting on it beginning of summer. So it was about May, and then I ended. So I went through. I'll explain this later about the MPC pipeline. But basically, I started off concepting, which is really fun, fluid. You don't care about anything. You just create loads of variations. You blah blah blah, sculpt away, present it really nicely. Get feedback on it. Oh yeah, I like variation A, I like variation C. Can we see D and E mixed together, and all these. So you get loads of random notes, and then once the concept finally gets approved, you then start pumping it into the MC pipeline. I'll explain that a bit later, but basically, so I was on that film, so I started concepting on it, and then I saw the model all the way through to the pretty much the end state, so I didn't get off that film until, I think, end of September, so I was on it I was on it in October as well. I was on it for a long time. I got a bit fatigued towards the end, because it's just, you want something fresh after that time, so, but it was really good. Really good fun experience. Hopefully there should be a trailer out soon, but yeah, keep your eyes out for that one. This film, which is like, I don't know if you know, but I am a huge Superman fan. So to work on this is like, there's two films that I want to work on in my life, and it's a Superman film and a Star Wars film. So I can write off the list Superman. Next is Star Wars. So this one, can't say a word about. But I actually got to concept for this one as well, which was huge, and it's going to be awesome. This film is going to be, it's going to be really good, and yeah, I can't say anything. it's just bubbling up. It's like can't say anything. So there should be a trailer out for this soonish, I think. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But yeah, so keep your eyes out. I mean, obviously there'll be a trailer soon. This film's gonna be good. And then this film, which I've recently, just today, nearly got the Thing's face approved. Fantastic Four, or shall I say Fantastic Four Babies. So basically, they've rebooted Fantastic Four to try and make it darker, but thrown it with loads of young characters. So I've been given the task of working on the Thing, especially mainly the Thing's face, trying to make it move, because it's the first CGI Thing that they've made. So it's a rock face, and he's made up of loads of different rocks, and he needs to have fully emotional movement like Jamie Bell. So this was a real ball ache of a task, but it looks good, so we're getting there. Hopefully you don't see it and you go like, oh, that Thing's face, his face looks terrible. Hopefully you don't. But so yeah, I've been working on him, and then I've started on Doom, which he is in the film.
Doom doesn't have a mask on, does he?
No comment. I'm not allowed to say. I don't know. It's been
all over the internet that he doesn't have a mask, and everybody was like, enough.
Yeah, this has been a good film to work on. It's pretty crazy, because at MPC you get the films that we work on for a long period. Like Batman vs Superman is not coming out for 2016.
Yeah.
This film is coming out next year in May, and it's like I don't know how it's going to come out. It's just funny to see how films quickly get pushed, and then you're like, do the VFX, press the render button, make it beautiful, and it's like, whoa. The amount of like people stress out to try and get, because when you work on something you want to make it look good, and when if you don't have the time, it's really frustrating, because you're just like, you don't have the time to finesse or make it look good, and you're just getting shit ton of notes, and you're like, I know, I need more time. It's kind of, you don't have time, so it can get a bit stressful.
Do you think that's because it's DC and Marvel? Because obviously,
yeah,
Batman is DC.
Well, the thing is,
and they're so worried because Marvel's got so many licenses.
Yeah, but this is Fox, so it's a bit different,
Right.
So I mean, it's fun because Guardians of the Galaxy was Disney.
Yeah.
And something happened higher up in MPC, but I think MPC have burnt bridges with Disney. I don't know how. But
Disney and that stuff.
Yeah, so they kind of like, we won't be working on any more Disney Marvel films, but Marvel Fox or Marvel Sony, we will. So it's a real weird politic thing.
Yeah.
And this has been like greenlit and like pushed so fast, like it just came out of nowhere. So it's kind of worrying, because no one wants to see something rushed. But I mean, the work, a lot of artists have put a lot of hard work into this film already. So hopefully it'll good. But we can never control the story. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
So most of the films we work on, some of them just it's good VFX, but yeah, the story was great. Okay, yeah. So as I said before, so these are the films that MPC worked on that got Oscars. So Godzilla, Guardians of the Galaxy, Maleficent, Night at the Museum 3, X-Men: Days of Future Past. So I worked on Night at the Museum 3, Maleficent, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So 3, it was right. So yeah, they were all really, hopefully we win an award, but I doubt it because we're going up against Planet of the Apes, which is really good in visual effects wise. I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy might do it. I don't know, or Godzilla. You don't really see much of Godzilla in the film, so I mean, if you cut all of the amounts you see Godzilla, it's probably not a lot.
Someone did it, and I think it was 17 minutes.
17 minutes? Yeah, that definitely won't win a VFX award. Although it was really, really nice. That film, they were working on it. They were finishing a shot 5 days before it came out in cinema. Yeah, that's how tight that film was. Godzilla was really tight. So yeah, I want to briefly talk about another type of ZBrush stuff, which is 3D printing. So in the commercials department, I was given this task. These artists wanted they wanted like the new medium of art. So they wanted to have loads of different art exhibitions with different pieces of old-fashioned art reinvented in the new age. So I got given the task. So there was like, we did a lot of like still life paintings of like a decomposed frog, but over, it was rendered over like 6,000 frames, so it was playing. So it was a moving piece of art, but you could see the frog decompose and flies and maggots come in and over it. So there was that, there was loads of other ones, and I was given the task of sculpting Van Gogh's sunflowers into 3D. They wanted to print it and cast it into bronze. So I did a bit of 3D printing before. I've sculpted models and they've printed them off and sent them to clients to try and get approval on stuff. So they were like, Sean, you're good at 3D printing? I'm like, yeah, yes. So I quickly learned like everything about 3D printing through this project, which was insane. So I learned how to like key and slot, and basically learn how to, like, I was looking at not action men, but like action figures, how they like print like slots and sockets. Yeah, so to plug it in. And with this, it was really interesting because the vase had to have this whole key and slot system in it. So I worked out that it had a disc in it, because obviously the flowers had to slot in and they had to, be posed as the painting. So that was the biggest difficult thing. So I had to each individual flower had like a weird shape that I quickly made in ZBrush to like fit in the base that would slot in, and then at the right angle. So when you looked at it to the front, came out like the sunflower thing. It was a really, really fun experience. And it was it was me and a couple of artists in Bangalore. Bangalore helped do some low poly modelling on it, and I sculpted the whole thing, which was really, really fun. And I think there's a next page. So yeah, this is it, like half printed, and then this is like the stages of like what I went through with each flower, each stem. I made my own, like, because they wanted like a consistency of brush strokes and Van Goghiness. So I made like my own ZBrush brushes to resemble Van Gogh's strokes, palettes. The way that like I created a brush where if you sculpt on the surface, it would push like paint blobs towards the side, so it would create that feeling of like it's a oil painting along a piece of paper. And I did lots of experimenting, and it kind of worked. They really liked it, and it came out pretty damn awesome. I've got a piece of it at home actually, and then I've also printed some of my personal projects as well. So this is the baling that I sculpted from Mr. Jack's concept, and my friend who conveniently works in a 3D printing place, he said he wanted some models to show off like what their printers could do. So I sent him a couple of models and he printed them out, and he gave me one as well. So I got my own little set of personal ZBrush models. But I asked like, oh, if I wanted to do this, how, just print them. He's like, how much? He's like, about £300, £500. I was like, okay. So hopefully that will get cheaper in the future. But yeah, I mean, it came out pretty well. So this is the sculpt that I did, and I mean, these are lower camera photos, but I mean, this one's pretty high. But I mean, it captured it pretty well. I mean, considering it was literally just like I didn't split it up, or I didn't, you know, I could have really like made it into a really nice piece, like slot it up and then put it all back together again, so it looked really detailed and stuff. But for just like literally gave them that, boom, printed, and it was pretty nice. And then these are other little bits and bobs that I've printed. MPC got their own crappy little printer, and just had fun printing out loads of things, loads of bits that I worked on, and yeah, it was pretty fun. Although it's, it's a good laugh, but it's not the kind of quality. The quality's not there yet, but I mean, it is pretty cool having, you know, you sculpt something, and then you get it printed, and you have it next to you, and you're like, oh, it's pretty cool. So it is definitely fun. I think you guys have like a printer here. You should definitely, if it's free, you should definitely get some of your stuff printed out. So, I mean, hope I'm not boring you, but this is a boring graph about MPC pipeline, which I will break down into hopefully a more funner way of what we do. So, okay. So basically, I'm going to break it down so don't bore you. So at the start, you get given a brief. So, for instance, we'll say a film about a guy who lives in outer... No, hold on, that sounds like Guidance Galaxy. A guy who is turning into a monster. Okay, so that's the brief of the film. You get given the brief. We want what we want the monster to look like. You get given a few mood boards, a few we want the monster to be like this. Sometimes, like this is the hard thing. Sometimes you just have no brief whatsoever. It's kind of like kind of have an idea, but we kind of want you to play around with the idea. So sometimes we just go off on a ball. We create our own mood boards, create our own. You know, there's tons and tons of reference that goes into it. So we gather loads and loads of reference. We got an awesome art department which quickly sketches out 2D. Amazing 2D, slaps together Photoshop stuff, and then they go through a couple of rounds of that, and then they try and nail down the character or creature or environment or whatever. And then once it gets to a point where the director's kind of like, yeah, I'm feeling this is kind of working, but I'm not too sure. As soon as we hit that kind of sweet spot, it gets sent to a ZBrush guy. The ZBrush guy starts sculpting up so the director can really see it in 3D, really see like what his character is, what it's going to be. We'll take for instance Groot. So Groot was originally concepted by Josh Harron. Oh god, I can't remember his name. This dude in Marvel Legacy Effects. No, not Legacy Effects. He used to work in Legacy Effects. Now I can't remember. Anyway, I can't remember his name. That's really bugging me. So he originally concepted Groot, and he then sent concept of Groot to us. We got concept of Groot. We then play around with the idea of adding, because everyone, you'll find in the VFX industry, everyone has to add their own little bit of flair. So we get concept from Groot. We start sculpting Groot. The director starts seeing Groot in 3D. You know, Groot starts getting tweaks and changes, and then it's kind of like it really finesses down into what does the inside of his mouth look like? What does his armpit look like? What does the nails, the undersoles of his feet, anything, his groin, because sometimes the concept can just be literally like a pose, and it could hide a lot of the character itself. So we kind of work out and fill in the gaps, and fill in what's missing from the character. So once that starts, so it still stays in like a concept D ZBrush way until the director goes, yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing, and then it's really hard to tell when that is. Sometimes we'll start putting it in the pipeline before, and then it can really like bugger us up because we'll be like, and the director will be looking at it one day and be like, oh no, I feel like he should have like a massive tree wart on his neck or something, and it's kind of like, okay, and then it's kind of like, pipeline guys, stop what you're doing, ZBrush guy, you do the wart on the neck, and then give it to the pipeline guys and update. So it's a real back and forth, but we try and get everything moving as fast as possible and like at the same time, because that's how MPC works. So it goes from concept to ZBrush concept to model pipeline to once it's done in a model, then it goes. Then as soon as it's UV'd, the texturing starts. Then the retopologing starts, and then turnarounds and look dev starts as soon as the texturing has got some sort of textures on it. So while the look deving and texturing starts, this is probably all super confusing to you. But once that's going on, you then have the ZBrush guys start chopping off the model and doing super high res bits of it. So for instance, like Groot, he'll chop the rest of his body off, just work on the face, and super up-res it, and really sculpt loads of beautiful details. And I think the mouth area was like based on a walnut. So like really go to town, really go as high poly as you can, and then we extract loads and loads and loads of displacement, give it all to texturing work their thing, and then this will go on to what LOD A, LOD B, LOD C, LOD D. So this is like, so for instance, Groot is a LOD A character. He's a hero character. He's on the screen. He's close ups, loads of things. So he's a LOD A. But you'll have times where he's not on the screen. Like there's a good graph actually on the next one. So there'll be times where he's not on the screen fully, and we've got a clever system where it swaps him in for a LOD B. So it's less render time, it's less polygons, less rendering. It doesn't use the high displacement maps. It uses the LOD B displacement maps and all these cool little things. If he's really far in the distance, which I can't think of a scene where he is, but I think there is one. It'll swap it. So it's really clever. So it's all about saving render time, and then sometimes, like for instance Godzilla, it was really the sculpt on that was absolutely beautiful, and it's kind of like you just want to see him in his entirety, but he's always like motion blurred or covered in smoke, or there's debris on him, and you just want to like get just a glimpse of him just fully like in daylight, and really nice. Sometimes that can be pretty annoying when you've worked so hard on like an awesome character and he gets covered in dust and dirt and smoke. But that's just the director's choice. So this is an example. So this on the left. So this would be like a LOD A character, and then as soon as he would go out the frame into like he would swap in for a LOD C. And also rigging and animation, they all work on a LOD C, and they wrap a higher retopoed like sculpt. For example, the Godzilla topology was ridiculously high. But rigging work on a super low res one, and tech anim and animation, so they can actually work, because otherwise the Maya scene would be chugging. They'd be like, move his arm, wait 10 minutes, and then come back and his arm would be moved or something. So it's not an effective way of working. So they wrap all the high res meshes to the low res ones. There's multiple versions of the model to help everyone start working, and to get the best highest high res result possible. So yeah, I'll roll the Godzilla. Yeah, I thought that was fun. We woke up thousands of years just to cock block some mutos. So this will explain what I've just been rambling on about. Sorry if I've been rambling, or if it doesn't make sense, please just put your hand up and ask if you're saying that doesn't make sense. Can you explain that again? Because I'll just keep rambling. So you're about to see, oh no, not yet. You'll see loads of different versions of the model of Godzilla, like slot in, and so that's a super high res wireframe of the Muto. There you go. I mean, you see it for 3 seconds. See if I can do it again. So, super high res model, finished. Oh, just go back. Oh, let's come back. Where is it? Where's the wireframe? So yeah, oh, damn it. Yes. So you can see how flippin' detailed that thing is. I mean, that is a crazy topology. Some VFX supervisors want every single wrinkle, every single boil, every single thing in the model, so when they look at it, they can see it, and they don't. Some VFX producers don't rely on displacements, so they go like, I really want. They'll go, I want it in the model. I want it modeled in the model. I want it in the model. So you model it in the model, which yeah, as you can see, just looks absolutely insane. You can't really make out anything, but rigging and stuff will wrap this to a really, really low res one, which in the next one we'll probably see a low res one. See, look, rain, smoke. Oh, you didn't see it. See how good he looked. And then gets covered. Gets covered. It still looks really good. Boom. So that'll be a Lod C. That'll be a Lod C Godzilla. Easy, really easy to render. Probably no displacement, I'm gonna say. Maybe a little bit of displacement, but you know, covered by smoke, covered by rain. This is all effects and comp work. There you go. So much smoke. Cool silhouette. So nice AO. You can really see like you'll get a lot of these. So this is basically like the model. Probably no displacement, and the VFX supervisor will be like, yeah, now I want to see it with details. Like you'll have like you'll see like loads of different renders. Like you won't, but people who work on it will have loads of different renders of about 4 different types of displacement. So you'll have like you know, base detail, you'll have tertiary detail, secondary detail, wart detail, wrinkle detail, and sometimes some people like to break them up so they can see everything coming on like a Photoshop filter, like boom, 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 boom. This one's this one, or see what's not working, see what is working. This guy had a lot, so. So yeah, there you go. You'll saw the low-res model, which is what the rigging use. They don't show it, but you can tell that's low-res. So that's the one that rigging, animation, and tech anim use, and make all those cool fight scenes, and make sure his muscles are all jiggling and breathing and fat, you know, rolling, and all the juicy stuff that makes a character feel fleshy and alive. For me, for my personal thing, I feel like Godzilla, you see sometimes in his chest, it just jiggles a bit too much for my liking, and that's just my, like, I saw it being worked on, and I was like, I have no say in the matter, you know, but just for me, it just felt like a little bit too jiggly. Didn't feel like, I don't know, you'll see it if you watch the film again. Keep an eye on his, especially his breathing, I don't know, it doesn't feel a little bit it feels unnatural, but that's just me. Poor Godzilla. Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually funny because when we went to the screening of this film, the cast and crew premiere, there was another company that worked on it, and Gareth Edwards was there, and he had like a Q&A afterwards, and he some random guy asked him. He goes, "Oh, he was a French guy," and he was like, "I really like the film, but what's with the blue magique coming out of his mouth?" And I just felt, and everyone face palmed and was like, "I can't believe you just asked Gareth Edwards that," which was really, really funny. And yeah, that's a little fun fact. And also I asked him if he did a sequel, who he would like to fight, and he said the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. So that would be a good fight. Although, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. At uni, I remember doing Cars and hating it and being like, oh. Yeah, like I remember in first year doing Cars and what else was there? Yeah, Pod Racer. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, hard surface. I mean, I like hard surface sculpting because that's completely different. But mainly the reason why I'm put off by hard surface is because of the retopology and your crisp edge lines, and people absolutely love hard surface. Like I got a friend who did all the ships for Guardians of the Galaxy. He didn't do all of them, actually. I've got two friends. Tim Blake, who used to go here, he modelled the Dark Aster, the massive huge ship. He's a bit of a hard surface modelling guy. And this other guy who modelled the is it Nostromo? No. Yeah. Is it Nostromo? The Quill ship. And he's really good at hard surface modelling. He's actually hard surface modelling on Terminator now as well. So there's guys that absolutely love hard surface modelling, and they really like their edge lines and they're crisp and they're bevels and they're whereas I'm like clay, shove loads of clay on it. But I like sculpting hard surface in ZBrush, which is pretty cool. But
have you ever used freeform?
Freeform?
Yeah.
No.
With the Hepticon?
No, I haven't used that.
It's a more expensive system than ZBrush, but it's...
Oh really? Is it more? It's dedicated to hard surfacing.
It was designed for doing tooling.
Yeah.
But it's all for engineering, so you can put drawers on things, and if you're doing an action figure, it will put in joints and it will
That's
it.
interesting. Yeah, maybe when I show you some ZBrush stuff, I can show you like a really cool way of. I do some hard surface modelling, and it's really quick and easy, and you can get some nice things out of it. Although your topology is not nice, which I know Neil likes. So no, but it is good. Like if you're a hard surface modeler, you need to show your wireframes. It's good if you're a hard surface concept sculptor. I mean, because that's the thing. But if you want to if you really like weapons, or if you want to get into games, or I know topology is key. So and like texture cheating as well, like texturing hard surfacing in a way. It's its own way. It's completely different to organic. So it's really cool. But yeah. So I'm going to talk about like my personal steps when I approach something. So a personal project, or sometimes an MPC project. Usually it depends on the time frame I have at MPC. Whereas personal, I just go on for quite a while sculpting. I don't know when to stop. So I mean, sometimes it could be a problem, and but other times, sticking to like a good, like if you tick off, all right, I've done that, and you look at it and you've assessed, then it's really, really good. So, I mean, when I start a project, I collect so much reference. It's unbelievable. I can't stress enough how much reference you need. You need like, I really, really love it, and sometimes I get disappointed when I think I've finally stopped getting enough reference. So like you can get like I've gotten pose boards, texture boards, detail boards, scratch boards. Fleshy boards, loads and loads and loads of different things, because I might like something that's completely separate to what I'm doing, but he'll have like a hint of, or like a style of the way it works that I want to incorporate into a character that I want to do. So there's just so much. Definitely collect so much ref. My
So
second.
do you print these out and stick them around your computer, or
I can do, yeah. If it's not my printer, I will do that. But I usually get a couple of screens up. I'll get my Surface up, and got a second screen, and sometimes on my phone if I'm really desperate, I'll just compare it to reference. And also if you're doing sculpting, if you feel like this is not working, just export a nice image out of your sculpt, or I don't know, the level of ZBrush guys in here. So if no one knows the thing about ZBrush, please feel free to be like, I don't understand or whatever, and I'll try and explain it to you. But so if you've got if you're ZBrushing and if you're sculpting and you're like, oh, this character's looking cool, but there's something not right about him, just screen grab him, take him out, compare him to a reference that you've got, and sooner or later you'll be if you flip between the two, which is really, really good, you just see what's completely different to what you're doing, and try and reference against real life. Can't stress that enough, because I see a lot of artists reference other artistic people. I mean, it's good to see that stuff, but it's not good. I mean, if you want to go for it depends. Again, it depends what you want to go for. If you want to go for a realistic approach, then yeah. If it's more Pixar, then it's not. You don't really. I'm more of a realistic-y type sculptor. I like to see things looking really, really good, really real, even though they're the orc character I did recently. I mean, it's an orc, it's fantasy, but I'd like to keep it in the realms of real, it's something that would be in a Lord of the Rings or a really cool game. So really, really, I try and compare my stuff to real life and real life reference as well. I mean, it's good to see the techniques other artists have used, but try not to because a lot of people, a lot of new artists at MPC do this. They'll show work and have reference, and they'll have reference of other CG characters, and people don't like that. People don't like seeing that, because it's we want it against real life stuff, and we don't want to copy what they're doing. We want to make our own type of thing. So because I used to compare my work to other CG artists, and it's it's funny if you start comparing it to real life stuff. You'll quickly develop your own way and your own style, instead of, I mean, it's great to follow in other, see how this guy does it, but if you start doing real life stuff, you start getting your own technique and your own style, which is really good. So thumbnail sketching, really, really awesome. Really, really awesome for the beginning of a project. You can whack it, I can do a quick sculpt of something, and it might look like dog shit, but I will take that, I will probably slap it really, really dark, put a silhouette on it, do some thumbnail sketching. I'll even go into Photoshop and just do some light greys over it, pull some shapes around. If I have no idea what I'm doing, this is if I'm trying to make my own concept, I'll definitely use thumbnail sketching, because you could get some really interesting shapes in that. And then when you're happy with that, go into blocking. Blocking is, you get your forms down. I spend a hell of a lot of time in the blocking and form and silhouette. The amount of time I spend in, just making sure that it looks correct, it's in proportion, doesn't look weird. I spend a lot of time in that, because I find as soon as you get the basic form down of the silhouette, the rest is just super easy. The rest just falls in. It just adds. If you have a bad form, a bad silhouette, and a bad just a bad basic model, you slap loads of detail on it. Yeah, the detail might look really, really cool, but it's not gonna overall it's just not gonna work. It's just gonna look a little bit. It'll just be yeah, that looks alright, but you're masking it with detail. So you need to have the form and the silhouette locked down, because I go through stages where I'm just I'll shove it in silhouette and I'll be what's working, what's not. I'll look at the forms. Is the bicep long enough? Sometimes it can be too long. Is it supposed to be too long? Is it really have a clear idea in your head of where your character's going, because it's your character and you need to sell it. As long as you sell it and you make it look really, really good, the character can have crazy forms. As long as you make them look good and make them work and make them feel like a character and have story to them. Really develop a story with your characters. I loved creating stories for my characters. That's what I love doing. I love sculpting in little bits of little bits of history into them, should you say, like really, because you see so many like characters and they're just like, they look really, really cool, but there's just, you just want to see like, I don't know, you want to tell a story. I love telling a story in a piece, and I love like, if you look at a character like, whoa, like he's been through hell and back again, or like that guy's been, whatever the case, like whatever type of character, it's great to like build up a backstory. Even if you go off on one, just have a crazy backstory, as long as you can sell it, and it really just helps, and it makes people believe in your character as well. So yeah, once I've got that down, I then go into muscles. Muscle sculpting is super fun. I love doing it. Can't get enough of the I have like one of those big anatomy models guys on my desk. Loads of anatomy reference. I mean, I've done Scott Eaton's anatomy course, which if anyone is planning on being a ZBrush sculptor, I would hugely recommend doing. That course is awesome. He teaches you so much, and things that you've never even seen before. Like the thing about anatomy is you'll see these images, and you'll see these like perfect anatomy guy. You'll see them all the time, like a crochet or whatever, and it's all formed. That's good and all. It's really good to learn how to sculpt that, but that's not, if you look at someone real and if you take someone, they don't have that anatomy whatsoever. Their anatomy is complete. Everyone has crazy different things about them that make their body who they are, and it's really interesting finding out, that. And like as Scott Eaton, he said he in one of his lectures he told me something which really stuck in my brain. Is if you don't know what's there, because he used to be an engineer, he was like, if you don't know what's there, how do you know to sculpt it? So you need to sculpt everything. Like he says, like you start off at the bottom, you sculpt all the main forms, the main pillars of your foundation, and then you build them up. And like I'm trying to at the moment learn all the muscles, which is crazy because it's like learning Latin. So but one day I will know all the muscles and the bones. One day, but it's really good. Like he's a really good sculptor. If you want to learn anything about anatomy, definitely recommend watching some of his stuff. So yeah, and muscles also, they are not symmetrical. I mean, I would start off symmetrical, but the amount of times I see symmetrical muscles, there just aren't. There's just none. No one has a symmetrical muscle. Everyone has a bigger bicep. Everyone has like their right arm's a little bit bigger if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, if your abs are not perfectly aligned, they're always slanted and sometimes bigger. Sometimes you have muscles missing, which is interesting. Which Scott, if you've done his course, you find out by this model called Andrew. He's missing a couple of can't remember the names of them, but he's missing a couple of muscles here, which is really interesting. You wouldn't notice at the sculpt, but once you realise that, you're like, oh yeah, and that's why it looks so good and so realistic. It's because no one is symmetrical in the world. That's a really big thing that I try and do as well, is make, like, obviously work symmetrically because it's really good, but as soon as you get to that point where you're ready, fast as possible unsymmetricalize that mesh, and that will really help sell your mesh. Usually at this point, once I've Z-remeshed it, so once I've done the muscle sculpting, the fat tissue sculpting, it's hard to list all of them all because each character is different, but once I've gone through that, and then once I've Z-remeshed it, done a quick Z-remesh or a dynamesh, depending on what I want to do with it, I will do first detail pass, which is bigger details. As soon as it gets to this point, I turn symmetry off, and then I start going in and start detailing, like, for instance, if he has like a big bump or a big scar or a gouge or anything, I don't know, boils or bigger details, finer details. And I didn't explain this as well. I store everything in layers. So layers is really good because it can really, you can turn them all on and off, and you can see what's working. Because sometimes you'll sculpt muscles and you might completely change the whole character. If you've sculpted too many muscles on him, you might change what you've originally had. So it's good to have that on and off to see what you've done. Yeah, and then so details, have them on layers, because for me it's really, when I start a model, I get really like, it's like the icing on the cake. Like I really want to build the cake and make it really nice before I put the icing on and the cherry on top, because details are really easy to put on. They're you know, once you learn how to do them, once you know, if you've got a really good base mesh, really good model, not base mesh, model, your details will flow, and they, as long as you put them on correct, obviously, they'll just sell your model even more. But really like, I really like, I stop myself from putting the details on, because it's just, you know, it's the best bit. So you want to save it, and put it in. Sometimes once I've done all like the fine details on the pores, do a bit of noodling. Noodling consists of just looking at the mesh, and like, if you look at someone's face, you can see there's loads and loads of little pores, but there's sometimes like big, like splotches of where pores have just like I don't know, it's hard to say, like
Pot marks.
yeah, and like just really go in and just noodle it a bit, like make it really unsymmetricalize it, and like just play around with it and see what's working. Like if it's like a demon character, you can. I love noodling demon characters, or anything like evil, or that's burnt, or that's, you know, got scars. You can really go in and just like have the skin tension ripping up to it, and, you know, really go in and noodle it. I mean, but don't noodle it too much, because that's also a good thing, because you can, on layers, you can noodle the heck out of it, and you can look at it and you be like, whoa, I've noodled it way too much. On your layer, you can just, you know, turn your layer off, store a morph target, turn it back on again. You can paint back your noodling or your details into certain spots, which really, like, you'll be amazed, like, that looks tons better, because it's not all over the model. It's in bits and places that you want, and you can really find some interesting things. So from then I go into poly painting. Poly painting is really fun. First of all, I paint the hot and cold spots. And I've got actually slides of like a character that I've done, which I've developed from using pretty much all of these from start to finish. So I'll quickly run through them and I'll show them to you, because I've probably been rambling for a little bit too long, and you're probably like, oh, it's boring. So yeah, poly paint, and then make sure my mesh is, you know, unsymmetrical, not crazy unsymmetrical, otherwise it's not realistic, but just the hint of it, and then pose it. Posing is, you know, really sell your character. It's really awesome. I find posing is probably the hardest bit of me, because I can never decide on a pose, and it's really interesting how just the slight tilt of the head, and like, you know, just it's better than just looking straight on, or, you know, it's just it's funny how just little things just make it look cool. And then I light and render in. I shove all my models in Keyshot. I used to render in ZBrush, but Keyshot is just super awesome. I would highly, if you guys can get a hold of it, I would highly just even to look at your model. Like I before I go into poly painting, if I've finished like the muscling and the tissues and the details, I will just export that out and shove it in Keyshot and have a look at it. Like really, because you get some really awesome HDRIs in that, and you can really tell how your model's reacting to the light, how the spec is hitting all these different points and stuff. So I would definitely recommend shoving it in that, because I mean, ZBrush, it's got good rendering, but it just takes a bit of time. Like you need to do loads of passes, you need to composite them in Photoshop, whereas in Keyshot, you can export that model in Keyshot, continue sculpting, and then look at Keyshot. It's a real-time renderer, and then you can see like, oh wow, that's what it looks like. Okay, that's what that, like, maybe there's something really wrong and you didn't even realize, like, oh, that shadow is really not working on that huge scar on that pit of the face or something. So you can really like see what your model's looking like, and it's awesome. And it's super easy to you know, to use. Like my problem when I was first starting is lighting and rendering and presentation was a huge thing for me, because I mean lighting in itself is just a whole ball game, another ball game, and rendering and all these render settings, and Keyshot is just like, it's just an artist light and rendering software, so it's just super easy to learn. And then yeah, just I finish everything in Photoshop, composite layers, and make sure it's all cool, and then do it. So yeah, this is my so I'm going to show you what I did for this orc character that I did, and I like to base, when I started the orc character, I like to base stuff on like celebrities, or not celebrities, actors or whatever, and I like to capture their likeness in the models. And because I feel like if you're doing like a fantasy character, it's really hard to know, for instance, like an orc, you can do an orc face, but if you really wanted to do an orc face, you really need someone to resemble that orc face. You really want to capture them as an orc, because like what really looks good as an orc is a human in prosthetics with an orc on, because they're using their forms and everything, but they're an orc. But so I decided William Dafoe would be a great one. So I thought he'd got a really interesting face, and I really wanted to capture his like smile and I mean he looked, he was the Goblin, but he didn't really look like a Goblin in Spider-Man. So I was like, I'm going to turn this guy into an orc. So I found loads of ref, and I kind of had an idea of where I wanted it to go. I wanted it to have like a Aztec-y, apocalypto like feel. Like I wanted him to have like weird nose plugs and ear plugs and all these accessories and stuff on it. And I wanted him to have, I wanted to steer clear of that green-yellow skin, and I wanted him to have like this cool, weird skin disease palette, which, I mean, I haven't finished. I'm still working on it at the moment, the poly painting of it. I was hoping to show you some today because I did some keyshot renders, but they didn't load into my email. So, but I should have that up soon if anyone wants to see that. I'll have that up soon. So yeah, my brief for this was like an orc bust, William Dafoe likeness, apocalypto weird accessories on his face, and like this really cool war paint stuff. I mean, I just finished playing Shadows of Mordor, which is an awesome game. I would highly recommend it. And like with the Hobbit 3 coming out, and I was just like, do you know what? It's so cliche, but I haven't sculpted an orc. I should sculpt an orc. Sometimes it's cool to just like, I mean, if you think of ZBrush, everyone sculpts a dragon, an orc, and a muscly man. So I was just like, yeah, just I just got to do it. So off I started, and yeah, you can never have too much ref. This is what I said. So back up your ideas with ref, mood boards, textures, details, blah blah blah. So I already explained this. I should probably have gone through these images with you when I started talking, but I'll quickly run through this. So this is the early stages of what I start off with. I usually start off with a sphere or a Z-sphere. So just get the neck. I just wanted a bust. I was going to do a full character, but I was working really, really hard at the time, and I was like, I just don't have the time to do a full character. It's going to take me ages because I get really, really into it. So I started off, I was like, just make it easy for yourself. I really like faces. I'm really, really into faces and how faces look, and just want to be like I really want to nail that and get that down. So yeah, Z-sphere. I started off Z-sphering neck, head, and then I started working out like his forms, the planar of the face, which is this image here, like, just brows. And then I was thinking how, orc features, they're pretty crazy, so what is he going to have? And then I was looking at William Dafoe, and he has a pretty big smile, so I was making him a big smile, and I originally had him like a Joker smile, but then I was like, this just looks like a Joker that's an orc, like a Joker orc, so I was just like, I can't do a Joker orc. So I took the smile out a bit, and had like this weird sort of like, what the fuck are you looking at expression. So yeah, so I went through, I got where I roughly wanted my forms to be, and the expression, like I could see it in my head, and I just kept sculpting in his mouth, really quick and dirty. Like, I mean, this is the thing, that's why it's hard for people to live sculpt, like for an hour, because it's, these stages is probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever, and it just looks like crap. But I know what it's going to look like, but I know it looks like crap. So it's kind of like you're probably sitting there going, "How's this guy a ZBrush sculptor and it looks like crap?" I mean, even this image, it looks like crap. But it's just getting there, and it was just playing around with the forms, and it's really playing around with something until it starts to look like this. So this takes, from this to this, it takes about a couple of hours, 3 hours or something to do. But once I start playing around with the model, once I start liking what I'm doing, and I knew I wanted to give him oversized, comical, big, huge orc ears. I wanted to give him like a long mouth, a tiny little nose, all scrunched up in his face, and then like from this, and I had it perfect, and I was like, okay, that looks really good. And then I was looking at the ears, and I was like, oh, these ears look really, really big, and I was like, I need to get rid of one of them. So then I decided he's just gonna have a burnt ear. So I just like boom, just chopped one of his ears off, and just started sculpting the burnt ear, and was like, yeah, he got hit by some hellfire or something in the face. so this is actually before. So this is like my stage where I'm like, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I've done the muscles, I've done the tissues, I'm liking the forms. I'm still working out some of it. Started shoving in teeth, eyes, liking what I'm seeing, and then I'm like, So then I go on to like detailing, and then I fuck up his ear, and then I give him that crazy, asymmetry, classic scar thing. I mean, it's really cliche to give him a scar down his eye. So I was like, I'll stay away from that. And then I started working in like he's been hit by like a fire blast or something in the face, and he's like, and then I started thinking about like what the Apocalypto guys look like, and then I was like, I want to make him like look like because he's kind of like a scrawny, skinny orc. He's not like a big butch orc that you usually see. So it's kind of like, hey, you could be an assassin. So I made him like a human assassin. So then I was like, to sell that idea, collects humans' ears. Why not? Walking Dead. Guy collected walkers' ears. I was like, Daryl's a cool guy. I'm going to implement some of that into this guy. So I had him collect humans' ears, and then like all the accessories, and started working on crazy accessories and working them into the model, making sure that I don't. The thing is you can over accessorize a guy as well. I mean, sometimes you can. It depends on the character as well. So sometimes I would, put a lip ring there, put a nose ring. I was like going really crazy. I was like, that's too much. And sometimes it's best to have, not a lot, but a bit. It depends, but it's really like a artistic choice. So then once I'm happy with this, I'll start going, okay, this is starting to really work. Throw it in key shot. I did a few renders. I was like, yeah, it's looking all right. I'm quite liking this. Then I start poly painting, which is this scary face. So how I usually start poly painting is I captured it at the wrong time. There should be a bit more on here, but I throw loads and loads of veins all over the thing, like different colours, like blues, purples, greens, because they're all in the skin. If you look at skin, like there's so many colours in the skin. So to really, really capture that, and if you're poly painting skin, and you're not like you've got a really nice image of skin and you're not just spraying it on, to really poly paint skin and to understand is like the hot and cold spots of the body. So I went over the bits that the bone gets closer to the face, and you poly paint that like a yellow and it goes blue, and then the really fleshy bits, which is the neck. Oh no, sorry, I've done the other way around. So the really fleshy bits of the. This is the wrong one. Is this the wrong one? Yeah, no, this is it. So the really bone bits is where the yellow comes through, and then the blue bits is like the chin area. It's like there's not a lot of blood pooling, and then when you get the really, really fleshy bits where it goes like in your eyelids and in your neck area and in your clavicle and all that stuff, it's the clavicle bone is close to the skin, so that's yellow. So you just start working in all those. Like look at thermal imaging of the face. Like that's what I usually do is thermal imaging, or I'll just type in hot and cold spots of the face. You find some really interesting images, and you can work in that, and you can start developing some characters. This is just like paint in. I mean, this is done really, really quickly. I did this in like a couple of hours, and then you get to this stage, and then you start working in more and more detail. So this is like, I mean, there's still quite a bit left to do because this is the stage that I got to. So I started working in his beard, his lips, his cuts, his moles, his burnt face, ear, and I need to work on like the pores next, and the wrinkles, and this part of the model is really, really bland, and I haven't really worked on the neck area. I need to work on the developing that, but I've started working on
Did you paint using photos, or did you use only alphas and space colours?
For this, I only used paint. So, and then I compare it to realistic skin and how far or different it really does look. So it's a great exercise because I mean it's easy just grabbing like a nice skin and just painting it, but to really know how that's made, it's quite nice because I mean I quickly do this and then I compare it and then I go like, have I done a good job, or have I, should I just go over it in a nice skin detail? So I really, really do look at that. And then this is just me playing around with designs of like war paint and tribal designs to try and really like sell the character. So this is just a clay render that I just threw into Keyshot and made today quickly. I made a fresh one because I know, is this an old one? I think this is an old one actually. So this is just composited in loads of different materials, not loads of different, I think it's like 2 or 3 materials in Keyshot, and just threw it all together, and I got this cool, sexy looking orc thing. So it's working. I see a few things that I need to change, which I did change. Like, for instance, this brow, the way that Spec's hitting it, it's a bit too sharp for my liking, so I really fleshed that out a bit more. But there's nice things are working, like the subtle cuts up here, and these little things which really sell the character, like little bumps, and really break up the character. So I really put that in a bit more. But yeah, so I wanted to show you like a cool texture, because basically I took this and I threw it into Keyshot with this guy, and I got some really nice results, but I couldn't attach it to my email for some reason. It was being I don't know what was going wrong with it, but I will put that up on my website and ArtStation and stuff. So look out for that, because that will be really cool. But I mean, is there any questions about like orc? Anyone? Orc questions? No.
Do you sculpt with like a Cintiq or a tablet or a
I wish I
optic
sculpted with a
mouse?
Cintiq. Cintiq is awesome. I sculpt with a big, nice tablet. My friend at work has got a Cintiq, and it's really hard at first to get used to it, but they're pretty cool. They make you look so professional as well. Like, everyone comes to him when he's at work, like, oh, look at that guy with a Cintiq, because he's the only one with a Cintiq, and it's like huge. He's like, sculpting one. Looks really cool. So this is just another thing. Like, it's like, so this orc guy I just made up. He was just bashed together with, like, hopefully you can see the likeness of William Dafoe in it. That means I've done a alright job. I mean, I kind of see it, but I see it in the eyes a bit and the mouth, but I don't know. It's kind of lost a bit. But
how many hours left to finish him off, do you think?
I'm at this stage. I need to do his war paint and then chuck it into Keyshot and see how the textures look. And then I'm not going to texture all of his accessories. I've got masks for those in Keyshot, so I'm just going to slap like some nice leather texture on it and stuff like that, cheap a bit. I'm probably going to spend another, I say a day. It won't be a full day, but it'll be like a day and a bit to really like finish this guy off and get him done, because I want to get him textured and done, finished, and start my next one.
How many divisions would that be then, to get that sort of detail?
This was, I think he was 12 million. I think I cheated and I cut his ear off. So his ear's separate to his body, and the inside of the mouth is separate to the body, even though you can't see it. But I think he's 12 million. It's really good to know, like, there's certain, so say for instance if your character's wearing like pants, or he's got a wristband or something, if you can chop that off and have that separate, it really helps save you polygons and puts polygons where you want polygons. So yeah, it's a clever way of going about it as well, because this is really hard. You can't really, because it's a bust, I can't really get his head separate from his neck, which I would love to do. But I mean, for those crazy shots, like in film, definitely you cut it off so it's separate. Like, I mean, I definitely know for the Weta love showing their close-ups of eyes. They do it in all their films. They have like a separate. They just do an eye piece and they just go in. They just go to town on that eye. So yeah, he was pretty heavy, but new ZBrush is going to be 64-bit. I want to subdivide at least 2 more times. We'll see. So yeah, this is another great little experiment, like grabbing someone else's concept, because if you work in games or especially in film, you get sent the concept. So it is really good to make the concept look like make the concept in 3D basically. So this is Mr. Jack's concept of a baling. He works at Blizzard. I contacted him and was like, dude, I want to sculpt your awesome baling sculpt. He's like, go for it, just send me a picture afterwards. And he sent him a picture, he was like, this is awesome. So yeah, that was a great one. loads of detail in that. See, this is clever because this is obviously super high res, but it's all separate subtools. So all these bubbles are different. The only thing that I think is a full thing is just this head where it goes round and this body. So it cuts off there and goes round. So I was really smart about this one because I split it up so much. So all these legs, so when you get like a nice little bit like that, you can just slice that off and make it its own subtool. And it's like, you make it really good. That's why it looks really high detailed, because no way would I be able to get this amount of detail in this, just if this was just one subtool. Absolutely, that'd be crazy. Maybe in the new ZBrush, but at the moment you have to find little ways around it.
And how long did that take you?
This baling took me, I think that took me, the turntable took me a long time, so I'm not going to include the turntable. I think the baling sculpt took me about 3 weeks, but I wasn't working on it like 9 till 6. It was lunchtime, it was after work, it was weekends. So it was, if I was working at 9 till 6, like I think I'd be able to bash something like this out in a week, maybe. Yeah. So then, so this is my next thing that I did, which was Halloween ZBrush contest, which I got disqualified for because what did I do wrong? I can't remember what I did wrong. I did some. My final render was not a. I can't remember, but I got disqualified for it, which was really annoying because I worked hard on it, even though the final render doesn't look good. But the sculpting, it was great because I just sculpted loads and loads of different things for it. Basically, the idea was to do a Halloween theme. They listed loads of Halloween movies, and you're supposed to throw them in a universe where they didn't belong. So I did aliens, the xenomorphs, in a Smurf land. So I did loads of, Smurfs with their chest ripped open, and face huggers, and mushrooms, and this crazy alien. Like, he's supposed to be a Smurf xenomorph alien. So he's kind of like a shorter, stumpier one. And this is a nice, juicy Arnold render. I learnt Arnold, even though, because at one point MPC was going to go into Arnold rendering. So I went ahead and learnt how to render in Arnold. They are not in Arnold rendering. Arnold rendering is really good, and you can get some really awesome renders out of it.
Excuse me, what sort of rendering are they into yet?
MPC do RenderMan.
RenderMan.
Yeah, so the reason why is because we've developed a lot of our own tools, like in-house tools. So swapping rendering is like a huge thing. Like, so many people have to work on different tools and stuff. So it's kind of like it outweighs the problems. So yeah, this guy was really detailed, and he's actually one subtool, and I can't believe I got him in one subtool. The only thing that's a separate subtool is the inside of his mouth and his teeth and gums. But the rest of him is just one whole thing. So yeah, that was fun. And yeah, and that's the end of the talk. And now...
Gorilla head and little thing at the bottom. I think that would catch you love.
Oh, you mean artist?
Yeah.
I love... I can't remember. This guy's awesome.
Oh, that's more, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Harris, yeah. This guy
He's
is
mental. He's a machine.
Yeah, this guy is. He pumps out work like nothing. I love his work. I love the way his characters look and feel, and they're all gross and ugly and horrible. And yeah, he's a big inspiration. Also, I love this guy. Who I worked with on, I worked with him, next to him on Batman vs Superman. He actually created Christopher Nolan's The Joker. So he created the face masks, he created the Joker smile, the whole slashing. He created Harry Potter's Death Eater masks. He created a lot of stuff. He's an amazing artist. If his website loads up. might be able to see it. Close these tabs and continue. Yeah, Eris is a big inspiration. He's just awesome. I mean, all of his stuff is like real life clay as well. So
He uses monster clay mostly now.
yeah.
How does he get his work? Is that concepting for?
Yeah, he does concept. He does concept films. So he does.
Basically, just put loads of photos out on Facebook.
Yeah.
He literally just sculpted like
I've
two
seen his
pictures
work a
out.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come across it a lot, yeah. It's lovely
But
stuff.
he went to LA with his portfolio. He didn't have a visa. They said, "Are you going to work?" He goes, "No." So they said, "Right, go home."
Ah.
Kicked him out. But obviously now, because he's well known.
Right. Okay. So if you guys have any like ZBrush like techniques, or like a couple of you came up to me, someone wants to know how to sculpt eyes, someone wants to know how to texture eyes. If you've got any like shout outs that you're like, oh, how did you do this on your orc, or how did you do this on your work, or little techniques, because I've learnt from looking at loads of panels and live sculpting, they're pretty boring, and it's really hard to sculpt something that looks really good to show you guys. Like, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do little snippets. I mean, we're supposed to be finishing at 9, which is not a lot of time. Maybe I can spend over a little bit longer if you guys don't mind. I mean, obviously if I'm going on too long, just go. So I can, if anyone wants any like, oh, I really struggle with chest or body or posing or blah blah blah, anything, like maybe I can do a quick thing. I was going to do a quick poly paint, a quick texturing the eyes, sculpting the eyes, sculpting forms and using morph targets and layers. And yeah, if anyone's like, oh, details or stuff, just say. But I will start off with texturing these eyes real quick. So how to get eyes looking really cool in ZBrush is, I've got these really nice macro, I mean it's not these, but I've got these really nice macro images of eyes. I can't remember where I got them from, but they're really cool. The best thing about them is they've got no specular on them, so you can just paint them in, because I mean the worst thing about this is if I just paint it on straight away, I'm going to create this specular, which is not ideal. So I mean, if you want to create your own eye textures, it's great. This brings on what I wanted to say. So when I start sculpting, I always have like a few assets or tools that I've already made 100 times over again, like a face, a body, like skulls, muscles. I got painted eye textures, and I've made took all the specular out of them and stuff like that, and skin, taken out the high detail passes on skin, high volumes and all this stuff. So I've got if I ever like find like, oh, I need this, or I need to double check, like I'll just throw in like my skull that I've made and check proportions, or or even bring in the skull with it, and if the character's like got a big skull, then I'll increase the skull. But it's good to have like templates and things to help you speed up your work process, because so if I knew I was doing eyes, like eyes are just not a thing for me, because I have like loads of these textures, all different colors, crazy designs, shapes, sizes, bloody, veiny, pussy, all these horrible nasty things. So whatever eye I want, I'll just load in my image, have a look at it, slap it on. I might slap on a few and see what's different. So it's really good having all these. I definitely recommend like giving yourself, if you're you want to be a ZBrush guy, have like loads and loads of weapons in your arsenal if you want, or something around those lines. So
Sure. I've noticed you got a Michael Jackson glove.
yeah, I get taken the piss out of work a lot for this. I wear like these gloves because you usually wear them for Centiques. I got my Surface and I do a bit of sculpting on that, and I find like just going across a tablet, it's a lot smoother and swifter. Like I can do a lot of straight lines.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like my hand would chug a bit, or like, get a bit sweaty, or if you're working really hard and you're getting work out, you're finding that it just gets a bit sweaty and a bit messes up your sculpting. So I like to just glide along, and I do get taken the piss out of, but I like it. You can find these on Smudge Guard if anyone's interested. They're really cool. Yeah, so so quickly, I'm going to show you how I poly paint an eye. It's super easy. So imagine there's not this specular on it. Maybe I could paint it out. So I'm going to. Oh, hold on. Also, I'm just going to run through my setup as well quickly. So I've got loads of hotkeys. I used to be a big World of Warcraft nerd. So I love hotkeys and macroing, and so I used to do loads of like 1, 2, 3 or A, SD to shoot bolts and all that stuff. So basically, I've assigned all of that knowledge to like brushes and things in ZBrush. So now like I'm like Alt A is my clay tubes, and S is my standard, and A is my clay, and move and morph and flatten. Oh no, you don't have it. I've got loads of custom brushes that I've assigned to my hotkeys as well. Like Dem Standard is one of my favourites. I'll quickly explain like my favourite brushes as well. Inflate, clay tubes, with usually the alpha, because the alpha is a little bit strong. Sometimes the alpha is good at a square at the beginning of a stage, but I usually like soften it a bit, gives it a bit more of an organic feel. Clay is really good for if you've made a mistake and you just want to cover it up. You just clay over it. Standard, obviously standard. I always have this as my standard. Really low intensity. I have my smooth. This is probably like, oh, what's he doing? I have my smooth curve really, really low, which affects. So I don't know if I hide this. Where's my eyes gone? Oh, there we go. So the smooth. Doing my eyes. Where did it go? Okay. Hold on, something's gone wrong there. Oh, it's hidden. This one. Okay. Right. Let me separate these guys. Okay. So my smooth brush is. So I'll do some sculpting, lovely sculpting. If your smooth brush is like left at default, you start smoothing and it just. Okay, that's a little bit low. But you'll start sculpting and your smooth brush will just completely destroy your sculpting that you do. So I really like to see, like, soften it back. This. Oh, that's what. So I really like to see like what it does, and I really like to see like the detail going instead of like if you leave. I find if you leave this at default, you do something and it's just gone. It's like smooth as well. It's just too much for me. But that's just a personal thing of me. I like to slowly see what is being smoothed off and taken away. So yeah, so clay tubes, standard, Dem standard, inflate, flatten. I think that's it. I think those are my main brushes. Oh, morph and move topology. So those are my main brushes, and honestly, you only need like a few. So, cherry pick the ones you really like, and Dem standard is awesome. So texturing this eye really quick. So I'll usually grab an image from my library that I have, and I'll just paint this bad boy on. Hold on, let me see if it's right. Subdivide that up, and I'll just paint this guy on. Hopefully I turn symmetry on, so the other eye gets painted as well. Soon find out. No, I didn't. Right, this is why you don't do sculpting. That's 1, 2 plus thing. Oh, it's so weird seeing this setup. Where did you do it last time? Right. There we go. Right, okay. So yeah, so see, like this has created its own spec, but we've got the spec in there as well. But honestly, that's how I like quickly paint eyes that look really good. I mean, they're only placeholders, so they only need to they only need to look good like that. I mean, that looks like an alien eye. I didn't really see that he looks like that. So maybe he needs to have a small iris. So more of a human eye instead of an alien eye. You can just paint that back. And I'm painting with the. There we go. I'm painting with that. So let's paint a normal eye on him instead of an alien eye. I mean, it's still a bit big. So yeah, it's basically this process, this tedious process of paint an eye, find it. Boom, that's a bit better. Looks a bit derpy, but oh well. So the skin, what's the skin one? Skin, plastic. Found some plastic. See skin? Oh, you haven't got it. Okay. I'll just stick this. Right. Okay. So that's how I quickly paint an eye, and then I would, paint that speck out because that looks weird. So hopefully that gives you clarity on painting an eye, and also like what you find with eyes is the best thing that I find is whenever I poly paint, I do color spray, and I grab a nice pori alpha, and I blur that alpha, and like before I would paint this, I'd make sure that this is nice and red and gooey, if you know what I mean. So I really like paint around it and get this weirdness, and maybe drag some weird veins on it. I don't have my alphas, so they won't look really, really cool. Where's the alpha? There's a normal alpha vein? There it is. Don't want that blurred. So then, like, grab some of these and just, I don't know, drag them in, however veiny you want it. Bloodshot. If one eye is pink eye and the other one's not. So then, and obviously it's a bit too red. Excuse me. So, and you find in the eye, the iris is never the white bit in the eye is never white. So it's always an off white. It's like a grey or a yellowy, depending on if he has a disease in his eye. So, yeah, paint back. I mean, this is really, really rough and dirty, but that's what you're going to get in this time period. So yeah, I mean that's pretty IE, I would say. I mean, obviously, like I'd finesse and do it, but I mean, that's how I'd go about it. And in the corners, really, really make it really, I would paint like this with transparency on, so you can see where your eyeball ends on your character, so you can really be like, okay, it ends there. So, start painting in the pinky bits, and it really gets fleshy and yellow. But yeah, so that was a quick eye thing. Still looks really derpy, but oh well.
He's special.
Yeah, he's a special type of one. So hopefully that answers your question about poly painting eyes. If you find some really good eye textures, no problem. You can change the hues in Photoshop. You can, create your own designs if you really don't want it, or you can clone stamp bits that you really like. And because I know eyes are a big thing. Eyes are the souls of the character, or something. Something cheesy like that. So what was the?
So could you change the contrast from that and then use that as an alpha if you wanted to actually sculpt?
You can sculpt in this detail as well, yeah. So you can use this. You can use what I've done like this as an alpha as well to sculpt in detail, which will be really nice. So if I turn that off, so you change this to Ziad, and you just go in and you can. I mean, you're going to get some weird effects. Probably best using maybe a clay Z and just go over it. You can kind of see it. Yeah, you can paint some nice. I mean, you can turn this into an actual alpha and a mask, and you can see. You can slowly see stuff coming through. So you can like work that up, and you can really get a cool looking eye effect. Because what sells an eye is detail on this. I mean, you might not believe it, but there is actually loads and loads of detail on this. Like if you look up like macros of eyes, it is crazy how like they're like little mini canyons and stuff. So they got loads and loads of detail in, and it's great because just sells it a bit more. Hopefully that answers the eye question. I'm going to quickly show you how I sculpt. So I was like, oh, what should I show these? What can I quickly show you these? What can I quickly show you guys, like in terms of fast ZBrush techniques on modeling? So this is me using layers, and this is like, I was like, oh, I'll just turn him into a zombie. That's the classic. So originally, like you can really go to town, and this is what I mean about like storing layers. So you can really like fuck his lips up if you want, and really bring him back in. And it's a cool idea, especially doing zombies. It's really nice having layers. So for instance, I would have on this, I'd have a duplicate of this guy, and he would be normal. So normal guy, and I would deflate him so he's inside the mesh. Let's deflate, inflate. So I'd give that a -1. Didn't do anything. Why didn't it do anything? Is it minus? Oh, mesh those layers. Okay. Inflate them -1. Right, let's try again. Inflate -1. No, it was not inflating. Hold on. Let me try another technique. So, yeah, so I deflate him a bit. I mean, don't worry about it. And then, so he's sitting underneath the skin now. I mean, this is great for like layer sculpting, which is really interesting. Which is a great technique used for hard surface modeling. Is loads of layers. Like you don't care about the underlying, but you just sculpt through like. I can probably show you in a bit, but so this is now underneath the actual model. So I would like sculpt like muscles on this. So let me quickly sculpt some rough muscles. Probably want that alpha to get the muscle strength. So I'd hide it because it gets a bit confusing. So start sculpting. So start sculpting some lovely muscle strands, and you know, really go in to town on. So, for if you did see that, I have my own little like tablet. This guy is so fine. I have my own little like little what's it called? Shelf that I have on a hotkey that pops up, which I have like. Back face masking, which is a big thing on brushes. I don't know if you find if anyone's sculpted, but say for instance you've got lips and you'll sculpt on the lips. If you don't have, I can show you. If you don't have back mask sculpting on, your lips will incave on the other side of the geometry. So your lips will follow. If you can see that, your lips are following that geo. Whereas if you turn back masking on, it doesn't do that. It doesn't affect your. Affect. Hold on, have I done it right? That's not a plane, is it? Okay, that's a plane, so that's different. But it doesn't affect. It doesn't affect it if it's like.
Two faces are close together.
Yeah, two faces are close together. Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really good tip. I always have that on because sometimes you'll be sculpting away and you'll have no idea, and then something will happen and you'll be like, what is that sticking out of his cheek? And then you realise like you'll like open his face and you'll be like, oh my god, what has happened? Like all these craziness. Like for instance this, like if I start sculpting, this will like affect this, and because back mask casting is on, it doesn't affect that. Whereas if that was off, this is a better example. Then it affects that as well, and it's like, what is going on there? You'll be like, that's not the nose I want. And then, so if you turn that on, you turn it on for most of them, you can just sculpt away and you can start creating a really nice nose nostril without infecting the nostril inside. So you can get some you know, really nice effects on that, even though that nose looks dirty. So yeah, let me get back to muscles. So quickly sculpt some muscles. I'm just going to really create these really quickly because I know we're spare for time and it's probably really late and you guys want to grab a beer or something. So I'm going to quickly show you some like cool layering techniques. What's clever is like using like layers in a way to like mask stuff, especially if you're stretched for polygons and like limits, and if you haven't got a powerful PC or whatever. So like, for instance, I want these muscles to be like on there, but I don't want the rest of the. I don't want the. You can see the rest of him, so I'm gonna.
Would you decimate this together when you finish?
It depends. Like, if it's a concept sculpt, no, I'll just leave it. If it's actually part of the model, then it would have to just be like remodeled into it. But this is a really nice way because like you'll see like on this. I'm just gonna make a duplicate just in case. So like if we want this skin to be, if we want the skin peeling around the muscle area, you can really go in and, you know, create a different type of, you know, you can basically sculpt on top of it and it will come through. You can get this really nice layering effect, and it works quite well in creating some like torn. It's good for torn clothes, ripped skin, anything like that. Obviously, like this layer, and then like you can switch between the two. Like you hold Alt click and you can switch. So I'm just going to delete.
What's the tool you're using for doing the torn stuff?
Sorry, say that again.
What tool are you just using right now?
For the torn,
Yeah. Okay.
Dem Standard. So Dem Standard is a like one of my favourite brushes. It really like gets your details in and makes them look really cool and crisp and crunchy. So yeah, it's you know, quickly muscle sculpting, make that look really cool. Why is that still there? I swear I deleted it. And yeah, so I mean, even like what I've done here, you can have it like a different material color if you really want to help your eyes see what's coming through. Like, so I've got a skull underneath here which is present, so I can do that a different color, and then like you can start sculpting on this character till you reveal parts of the skull. So you can really, and this is really good for anatomy because like you can see like there's no skull there, there's no skull there, there's the skull, and like you can really sculpt. Like it's really good technique. Like doing undead and like zombie characters is really good for like anatomy purposes. So you can see like there'll be loads of skin build up here because that's where the skull is, and then like if you just accentuate those where the skull is, you can find some really cool ass techniques and stuff. What's happened to his lips? So yeah, so I mean, obviously I don't have enough time to like sculpt this thing into like an awesome sculpt. So what should I do next? Is there anything like you're like, oh, I need help on sculpting something, or I have problems sculpting this, or
If you wanted to add like a horn or a subtool as a separate thing, how would you go about making that?
so giving this guy horns, what you mean, like separately or on
Yeah,
top?
like if you want to, like you were saying, your thing has separate sacks and things like that.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Right. I would grab one of these guys and like put it up there. Maybe he has like a pole sticking out of his head, and then I would split this off. So then really make this look like it's sticking in his head. Maybe he's come in contact with Dale from Walking Dead. So to make this look cool, let me just come down. Come on. So I would go in and create a nice. Right. So like I would really like focus because if something's sticking in your head, it's going to make a recess in the skin, but it's also going to bunch up the skin as well. So I'd really go in and that's a little bit too extreme. Go in and really look at the corners of where it digs in and really play around with the recesses and the bulging which would come from it's loads of combinations of brushes, and then you'd get a secondary ripple feel of like skin stretching towards this area and like really getting tense. I mean, I wish I
Would you
could.
do the same technique with bullet wounds?
Yeah, bullet wounds, anything, burns, scars, and then like this is what I mean about the fun stuff, the noodling. So basically, like we've got this nice, cool, like recess in the skin. So it would really like build up, pooling, and then I'd go over it in like clay standard, and you can just see when you go over it in clay tubes, you can see some nice like areas that are just like accidental that you can just follow, like lines, like you can even create them yourself. So like the really cool one is like the classic one is just like creating this like recess into the skin, which really helps it. And I can't go high res on this because it's a bit chuggy now, but like I would split this off and really go to town and create nice folds. I mean, even if you want to show a bit of the skull coming through, like really big chunks of skin, and it's good having what really like makes a nice model is like having diverse, like bigger compared to small amounts of detail. So what I mean by that is like you might have these tiny little like scratches, and then like on the other hand you've got this massive huge big gouge and chunk out of it. So it just mixes it up, and then it really helps like sell it. So you can really go in and it's quite chuggy. It's only at 2 million. So yeah, that's how I would. Need a bit more skin bulging up and randomness. We're trying to get up onto the pole, and then like you can use like harsh brushes to create some quite nice like recesses in the skin, and just follow your dem standard and follow it. So for instance, if I didn't want that cut, use the clay. Clay gets rid of, it fills the gaps basically. It's quite nice. But it's, yeah, I'm probably rambling loads and I don't even realise it.
Is there things you want to avoid, like maybe pinch or?
No, pinch is good. Pinch is good for like eyelids and lips. It really sells like a thin piece of skin. It's definitely useful. I use it a lot in cloth pinching. But yeah, it's, and obviously like I would have loads and loads of ref for this, so I would not sculpt it out of my head. I would compare it to like, I'd see what's interesting in the world, see what horrific things I type in when I type in impaled so and so, or you get some crazy images that you can find. But I mean, if I show the skull, because you might get some nice happy accidents where you can see like if you like, I mean, the zombie might be really starved, so you can really like maybe have some of that skull showing, so it's like embedded in the skull, and then maybe he's lost a big chunk of skin from this, so just really goes to town on. I don't know, it's whatever you want. But I mean, obviously, it's hard sculpting like just with no ref and no freehand, and just freehanding it and doing it quick. And hopefully, I'm not boring you guys or whatever. But I mean, that's how I do it. I mean, for the eyes, for example. So pinch, I would go in. So create some nice. The lip of the eyelid is always a tricky one. So to create some nice lips, I would go around, turn lazy brush on. Lazy brush is awesome, and you turn the radius on, and you can see that I don't know if you know that, but you can see that red line drag, which gives you straighter lines. If you're finding it's hard to do straight lines, turn your lazy brush on. Really good for hard surfacing as well. So to create lids and folds in the eyes, so just go around. So like already, like I can see, even though I haven't really, I can see like lines on the, and I can just, you just sculpt into them, and you can just create some crazy, awesome, like you can just like bring that up, bring that down, bring this in, bring that out, and you can just start getting some nice, interesting shapes. Especially for this. This is like noodling, like dead skin. There's loads of like awesome techniques for that. But if you really want to create this nice lip around the eye, and then maybe you think like, oh, maybe it's too thick and you want some weight to it. So I would go in. Obviously, I'm doing this really fast, but I would do this on all, like I would have different passes and all different layers, so I can see what's working or not. And then like, if I wanted some weight to it, if I wanted to get rid of some of this. This might turn out to be really bad. It might turn out really good. Really good thing about like folds of skin is a big thing. So like how I create like nice folds of skin and like gravity. So basically this eyelid would sag a lot. Like you'd get crow's feet and huge sagging big eye bags. So I'd really like try and sell the weight of it, and I'd like, if I wanted to grab this, and I'd just mask this. Excuse me. And really, like masking is a huge tool. I hadn't used it probably in this demonstration enough, but masking is your best friend. Like masking is amazing. So like, to really like help make this skin look like it's folding over the rest of the eyelid, I would like sculpt out standard, and then like get that weight of the move brush and just slowly like pull it down. Maybe it's too much, but yeah. And then like use the inflate, and then it's, you know, you get that eye folding bag feel on that.
How would you do, or even would you do like eyelashes or?
Eyelashes, it depends on like, you know, style of character. You can do them manually if you want that like stylized look, or fiber mesh. Fiber mesh is really quite nice. I mean, fiber mesh is super easy to use. You just mask the area that you want eyelashes. You wouldn't have eyelashes there, but you'd have eyelashes there. Again, look at reference, because for a minute there I was like, I don't know where eyelashes come. Fiber mesh is great. There's loads of cool tutorials about using it. Yeah, there you go. I ran this.
Exactly what I had in mind.
So these are crazy ones. So I mean, I've spent a lot of time working on fiber mesh, and if you want thick, well, not that thick, they're quite hard to control, so it's pretty random. Usually what I'd get is even though these are really random and on the opposite side, I would create a few of them, and then I would see, well, not that many, but I would pick off a few. So for instance, these two and these are quite nice, and I would just delete the rest, and I would just duplicate them, because eyelashes there's not a lot, you know, or it depends on your character if you've got huge eyelashes or she's got huge eyelashes. But and that's really good for like. I mean, it's probably easier creating beards with fiber mesh, not eyelashes, because eyelashes are a bit more. I mean, unless he's like a crazy dwarf character, but yeah. So I mean, like, it's awesome for just giving him that. You want him to give him that, and then you can convert that into geo, and you can sculpt it afterwards. So obviously, this is a zombie that keeps his facial hair with a pole in his head. Yeah.
You mentioned pauses in the skin, little clusters of pauses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one actually. So, from looking at skin for a long time, you get. I'm going to do this really like harshly. So the skin is made up of like nut bows. Like so for instance, these are the tiny pores, and because I can't go high res on this, I'm going to show it big. Although think of it tiny. So these are normal pores, and you'd get like there'd be a few of them. Oh no, I'm doing this. There'd be like a few of them. Okay, maybe it's a bit too much. Yes, so you get all these tiny pores, and then what you'd do is you'd get these like bits of skin that you can already see, like here, where they just overlap, and they create these nice, like the clay brushes are wonderful for this, because you can just go over your mesh really lightly, and you can just find little spots, and you can just raise them a tiny bit, or just like connect a few pores together, so there's just not that connect these pores together, so they're not. There's a bit of smoothness on the skin, because it's not like you can't see every single pore on everyone's face. And that's what I find, like it gets a bit too noisy, and that's a really good technique, is like having not letting your eyes get distracted by too much noise, and just like breaking up the detail with like nice smooth areas. So like maybe there's a scar there. Like scars are very smooth. Scars don't have any detail on them. They have like little strands and little bits that come off of them. But like for instance here, like maybe this is a scar. So you can like and the classic thing to do with a scar is go in, and actually scars come out. It depends on how fresh the wound is. So if it's a fresh wound, obviously, and it's or if it's like a really deep wrinkle, like sometimes you get like guys with potholes or pot marks, or really hard, crazy, if they've been smoking or drinking like for a long time. So dwarves, and I don't know why I keep saying dwarves. And then like it's just all these differences. Like you'll have so many of all of these all over your face. Like even tiny, like depending on the character, but even like scars, like tiny little scars. They don't have to be big scars. They're just raised areas of the skin where there might not even be like a proper scar, but they're just like, it's just where the skin just, it's just nice to have that breakup feel, like, and then like, you can go in and, probably looking really weird, like have like boils, even if you just go in and soften it off and just create that nice little raised, oh look, he's got a spot or a boil.
Would you do the spots and boils in a separate layer, so it's
Yeah,
not so destructive?
Yeah, all of these are all separate. I mean, it doesn't look good there, but if you use this technique all over it, it's just because a lot of people just think because the best thing about the detail is if you keep it all on layers, you can just destroy it all and everything. Like I've just cleaned that out, and it's just given me some nice form on this, like the skin overlapping and stretching on I can work up some nice forms there, like skin overlapping on these nice recesses. So yeah, I mean it's all like it's all just trial and error. There's no like one way about it. It's just seeing how your mesh goes. Like I can see some nice. What's my thing? I can see some nice like things like following like a main scar, and then just creating like these subtle little to make your eyes follow and like look at these tiny little things, and that's just created like a nice little raised scar, and it's subtle, but I mean his skin's already looking like really fucked up and holy and moldy. So yeah, it's just spending your time on it, seeing what works, seeing what brush combinations work. I find like Dem Standard and clay work really well. clay brushes. Yeah. All right, I'll probably talk for half an hour. Is there anything else? Like, I mean, I don't want to keep you guys anymore. Is there anything like, oh, can you quickly show me this, or is everyone done? Is everyone done listening to me? I'm super thirsty.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do like a nice. We ran out of time. I wanted to do like a nice. I wanted to sculpt this guy as much as possible, like a zombie guy, but just didn't have the time. So yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, maybe you can just, you know, that's a skull that I have. It's awesome. So these are what I mean. Like, if you have tools that can just help you and speed things up, you can just, you know, whack stuff out really, really quickly. And yeah, all right. Any last questions or?
I think you'll have to come back in future and show us your zombie finish and then do another master.
Yeah.
This is more of like a general industry question.
Yeah.
Working at MPC as a ZBrush artist, do you get a chance to almost look into other fields and speak to other artists and learn a bit about other areas, or are you very concentrated once you?
No, you do get given the opportunity to I have textured stuff as well. So in Mari, I've textured quite a few assets, and it's great. Texturing is super fun, especially texturing like a big character like, you know, Godzilla or Groot. It's just got tons and tons of UDMs. That's an interesting thing because UDMs are like, so basically, pretend this is Godzilla's face. He would be broken down into like, I think on his body he had 90 UDMs, and they were all 8K. So basically, like, for instance, like a part of his face, so his eye area. So this is how you get so much detail in a model. So this would be like, you know, this would be a UV like stamp, and that'd be 8K or something crazy, and there'd be loads of them, and his face would be all split up, and that's how you really get the fine details in visual effects. Is like it's kind of like sculpting, but with Mari. So it's kind of like you can sculpt, not sculpt, you can paint displacements and find displacement maps and really get the detail in. But you know, there is opportunities to. The thing is like sometimes they'll do like, if you're quite high up in your field and you want to go into completely something different, like comping, you won't be able to go in like the same level. That's the only difference. But like something that's similar to you, like, I mean, I go back and forth with a lot of riggers because I was doing loads of facial blends, seeing what works with the face and the rig and what's breaking, what's not breaking. So you do, even though I don't want to learn about rigging, I, you know, like learn about it because I need to know what's not working and what is working and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you want to be a generalist, then it's more, you won't be able to be a generalist in film because there's just too many roles. I mean, you'd probably be better being a generalist in like commercials, and I mean, it is good to be like, I definitely start off being a generalist, like to find out what you really love, because I mean, I really love like ZBrushing and concepting and texturing and stuff, so I wanted to be in that type of field. But, yeah, so I mean, is there any other questions about, you know, honest opinions about in the industry? What's it like? Not like anything? No?
Do you prefer games or film?
Oh, that's a good one. I prefer film in terms of the level of detail, and now games are slowly catching up. Games getting pretty impressive, especially the next gens, and seeing all those crazy. Although they're doing this whole, like, you know, especially with the Uncharted stuff, you see like that cinematic that they did. And I know this because I've worked on one. I worked on an Xbox One, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is all in game, and it's Drake's face waking up on a beach, and it's like, yeah, it's all in game. And then you see actually gameplay, and you just see like, oh, it's kind of like a PS3 Drake's face, and it's kind of like you realise like, I know because I worked on a UFC cinematic where I did all the fighters, and I sculpted all of them, and I sculpted all their faces, getting all smashed up, and did like sculpting like target renders, and then when it was shown at the E3, like on the big Xbox One reveal, it was like they were like, oh, it's all in game, it's all in game. And they're like, no, it's not. I did it. Like, so it's a bit disappointing, but I definitely know like games are gonna catch up. I mean, I learned games because I wanted to get into games, and I mean, I probably will do in my career. I definitely want to get into it, like work on a Gears of War or something with lots of characters and monsters in it. So I mean, and Lionhead were contacting me the other month for a position, but couldn't go for it because it's in Guildford. But yeah, I definitely prefer. I don't know. It's a toss up. I love them both. Films and games. They're just different. I mean, I went into film because I felt like if you just do more, you weren't restricted by the poly count or the details. Like they just want more. They want more details, more poly count, more. So it's then it's like it's a different skill cramming. You know, making something low poly look really beautiful, than having no limits. So but they're both awesome industries.
Call it a day there. So
Yeah.
thanks very much for coming.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.